An céad Virella sin an tarriscint module cuaram Lenny. Moving on to private members' business, motion re childcare. Deputy Clerk Curran, I think you're moving the motion. Yes, so the motion has been formally moved.
Very glad to bring this motion to the House here this evening. I think it's very important that we keep the conversation that has been ongoing in the last week, in particular on childcare, going, especially as we approach the budget. But of course, for parents, for educators and for providers, they need a lot more than conversation. They need a lot more than half-baked policies with no substance, in the words of our Taoiseach. And that is why we published a costed and an actual comprehensive plan last week. And I'm very glad to have the opportunity here this evening to bring forward the key proposals in the Sinn Féin plan for childcare to the floor of the Dáil this evening. And no matter how many times the government tell us that they have cut childcare fees in half, childcare fees remain outrageously high. And the fact that they are 50% less now of what they were, it just shows how much higher they were to begin with. We had a survey published by the Irish Independent in April of this year. It showed that monthly childcare fees are in some parts of the state up to €1,500. So for those parents, cutting fees in half is frankly irrelevant. These fees are unsustainable and they are unfair. And those fees and the costs that they are to parents at a time of a cost of living crisis already, that is a fact in relation to where things stand on fees. And I think there's something very wrong when we are spending €1.1 billion of taxpayers' money, and yet taxpayers are paying up to €1,500 a month for childcare. I think there's something wrong there, and I think it needs to be looked at. Our proposal of €10 a day childcare per child, I hope this is a proposal the Minister would consider. It is a game changer and it will be transformative for the childcare sector. It will bring down fees, it will bring them to a capped amount, and that will be it. It would make childcare affordable once and for all, and it would ensure that no parent will pay more than €200 a month. That would make a huge difference to parents, to children, and to the preparation of children going into school and to their development. Of course, our plan also recognises that reducing the cost is only just one part of the problem. You have to be able to access childcare in the first place. I recently met with Chartered Accountants Ireland. Their members are really struggling in accessing childcare. They said it is as big an issue as housing in some parts of the country, and it is an issue they now have to look at on behalf of their members. I met the INMO today. Again, they raised childcare and the real difficulties that nurses and midwives are having in accessing childcare and the inflexibility that is there in some cases. We have major deficiencies in capacity. There are over 33,000 children on waiting lists for childcare places, and in many instances those places simply do not exist. We know that of the 6,663 children that are on waiting lists under 1 year of age, there are just 223 available places. Again, these are the facts in relation to the current situation. Our plan proposes immediate actions that we can take to build capacity and build it quickly. And the first part of that is paying our early years educators properly and paying them as they deserve. I noted in the Minister's amendment he talked about increasing wages in the sector. The last wage increase for our early years educators that took effect this year was 65 cents. It took 14 months to negotiate and they got 65 cents. That to me is a slap in the face for these professionals that we need in the sector. The sector does not exist without them, and we know that in some cases childcare providers have the physical space, but they've closed rooms because they do not have the staff. We know the SIP2 survey from July this year, 30% of managers are having problems recruiting and 42% of managers are concerned about room closures. If we want to have our professionals, if we want to retain them in the sector, we have to pay them. And we are committing to the SIP2 ask. In fact, we're exceeding it in that we are committing to the €1.50 increase initially, and we are making a commitment that that increase has to go further. If we want to retain the professionals in the sector, we have to pay them. And by the way, the pay increase the year before, in 2023, it was zero. It was nothing. And in relation to improving conditions, I spoke to an early years educator today and I asked her what conditions have been improved. She said none at all, apart from statutory sick pay for every worker in the country. They've got no change, no improvement in conditions whatsoever. So that is an area we have to look at if we're to improve and increase capacity, and again, it is something we can do quickly. I hope the Minister will look at our proposal in relation to the social enterprise model, looking at the many vacant and underused buildings, particularly community centres. That is a way in which we can bring the community with us on childcare. It works already and it does exist, and I hope it's a proposal the Minister will look at.
And first of all, I want to commend Deputy Claire Curran for not only bringing the motion forward to the Dáil tonight and allowing us to debate this important issue, but also for bringing this policy forward in the short time that she's been spokesperson for our party on childcare. She mentioned that this is a game changer, and that's exactly what it is. Talking to parents in my own constituency over the weekend, that's the language that they're using to me, because, Minister, you'll know that childcare in my county ranges from €600 right up until €1,200, and the idea that young couples can get childcare at €10 a day and not have to wait years to get that Sinn Féin government would deliver that from next year on, is actually a game changer for them, for their finances, in the middle of a cost of living crisis. But it's also the appropriate thing to do. It's also the right thing to do. Not only do we deliver €10 a day childcare guarantee for everybody in the formal childcare settings and those childminders already registered with TUSLA, but Sinn Féin's plan under Deputy Curran is to extend that to all childminders across the state through a registration process. And that's the exciting part of this, because it looks at the issue of capacity, it looks at the issue of affordability, not only from the parents' point of view in that €10 a day childcare pledge, but also in relation to the providers and the issues that they need in terms of a major amount of contingency fund to look at core funding needs for them after an appropriate review. But we know that there's capacity issues within the sector, and many of them are dealt with and have been building up because of government inaction. And as Deputy Curran says, the first step and the best step to actually start to deal with that is let's pay our early educators an appropriate wage. So an immediate €1.50 needs to be delivered to ensure that our early educators are paid a more appropriate rate, but importantly, as we have in our plan, a contingency fund to ensure that there are wage increases every year after that, to make sure that we recognise the value of those that we entrust our children in their care. So I commend this. I do believe genuinely it's a game changer. It's one of the most exciting policies I've seen come before the House, and it can be done. It's been done in Canada. Canada is providing, in parts of Canada, a pledge of $10 a day childcare under Sinn Féin. Parents will have that same commitment here. You will get your childcare for €10 a day, no more, no less.
Louise O'Reilly, please.
I want to commend my colleague, Dr. Claire Curran, for bringing forward this policy, and I want to also commend Kathleen Funchion for the work that she has done in this area. Minister, access to affordable childcare is a game changer. I hope that you know that. You certainly have not delivered it, but Dr. Curran has the plan, she has the ideas, €10 per day per child. That's exactly what parents need. They need certainty. They need to know that childcare is going to be affordable. When I was 21 years of age, my daughter was born, I was faced with a very stark choice, Minister. I could stay at home, mind her, we certainly could not have afforded the childcare fees. I could stay at home and mind my daughter and drop out of college, but because I was able to access affordable, subsidised childcare, I was able to work, to complete my degree, and we were able to settle and to build our wee family, and it was essential. My life would be so different if we had not had access to affordable childcare. It is an absolute necessity for families. And Minister, I saw your motion, and well, look at. I don't know that parents will thank you for throwing bouquets at yourself, but you're certainly doing an awful lot of that with your words. But let's look at the facts. The facts are that childcare is still unaffordable, and I sincerely hope that you have the humility to acknowledge that in your script. Childcare is still unaffordable for parents, and our early years educators are not paid enough. There are many elements to the Sinn Féin fully costed plan, but for those two, Minister, costs must come down. Sinn Féin have the plan. Sinn Féin will deliver €10 per day per child. It is, as we have said, an absolute game changer. And Minister, if you talk to parents, they will tell you it is not just what they want, it is what they need. It gives them certainty. It means that they can plan. And for our early years educators, 65 cents an hour, I think they got the message from you about how much their education and their contribution is valued. Not only have we provided for a decent increase, €1.50 per hour, but we have contingency for further increases. So I urge you, Minister, to withdraw your shameful amendment and support our fully costed plan.
Deputy Darren O'Rourke.
Thanks to Deputy Curran for bringing this motion forward. The Sinn Féin plan to deliver childcare at €10 per day or €200 per month is visionary and ambitious, but it's also realistic and achievable. In that regard, all we have to do is look to the likes of Denmark and Sweden, for example. In Meath, based on CSO figures, almost 10,300 children would benefit from this measure immediately. In doing so, we would lift a massive financial burden off families. Currently in Meath, families are paying between €800 and €1,150 per child per month in childcare fees. Sinn Féin's proposal would reduce this to €200 per month. That's a saving of between €600 and €950 per month. This would be absolutely transformational. It would lift the massive financial burden off families, as I say, and in doing so, it gives people some relief. It allows them to draw a breath, to lift their head, and I'd say for most, give them the chance to pay down some other debt, or for the lucky ones, and it's the hope for us all, the chance to spend more time with friends and family and in their community. So affordability is crucial, and Sinn Féin have a plan to deliver it. Like affordability, capacity is also crucial. It's no good being able to afford childcare if you can't access it in the first place. In Meath, access is a major issue. In 2022-23, 38% of services had waiting lists. That's sure to be even longer now. We have long promised creches, years in development. I think of the Willows in Dunshaughlin, just granted planning in July after years of waiting. Or Millerstown in Kilcock, a purpose-built creche lying vacant 18 months after completion. The Sinn Féin plan would deliver affordable childcare. It would address the issues of capacity, and it would address the issues of recruitment and retention in the sector. It's an excellent plan, Minister, and you should adopt it. Gurmagat.
Deputy Donoghue-Lira.
Minister, the plan that has been unveiled by Deputy Clare Curran, in my view, is visionary, and I think it is a really exciting policy, and I think it can be an absolute game changer to deliver €10 per child per day childcare. It is absolutely essential, and I would emphasise that, Minister. You know, this isn't a policy that you should be implementing because you know, it's a good policy or it's a sensible policy. It is a necessary policy. It has to happen. It absolutely has to happen. It is a strategic imperative for us as a state. It is crucial for families to be able to prosper, for them to be able to afford to make ends meet. It's essential, to be honest. There are many families out there, many couples who are thinking of starting a family, and this is one of the things that discourages them, the cost of childcare. We do not have affordable childcare in this state by any manner or means. Whatever steps and changes have been made, if you have, in Cork now, if you have 2 children in full-time childcare, you're probably looking at €1,500. Even if you have one of them that might be an ECCE, you're still talking about €1,200. That is a huge sum of money. That is another mortgage, you know, and that is absolutely crippling for families, and it is discouraging people from going back to work, and it is discouraging people from having a child or having a second child. It is simply not good enough. The plan that has been unveiled here by Deputy Curran and the team around her, in my view, lays the foundation for finally taking this issue seriously enough, valuing it as early years education, ensuring that the workers, that the staff are valued, ensuring that the sector is sustainable and that the places are available. Ara tá méid impíor tá sé seo riachtanach den tóchaí, den stáitse, den tailig agus doing galéir. Ní féidirling fa nach de heile tá mí caintle faoi an ábhar seo feag na blianta agus gan mór an dulcan cín. Caithmid sinna dhéanamh. This visionary policy has to be implemented. I am absolutely certain that it will make a sea change for families, for us as a country and as a society.
I'd like to commend my colleague Claire Curran for bringing forward this motion and for the work she's done on the policy, and indeed her predecessor, former Deputy Kathleen Punchkin, for all the work she did in this area as well. Our childcare needs to be affordable, it needs to be accessible, it needs to be reliable, and it is not any of those things at the moment. I mean, for an average cost of €800 per month, for anybody that is not affordable. For many parents, they are paying a lot more than €800. That's not sustainable, and many are forced to actually reduce their work or to leave work, in particular women, and it is affecting them more so than anyone. Also, I am contacted on a regular basis by parents whose maternity leave is coming to an end, and they are panicking because they need to go back to work, but they cannot find a place to put their child in childcare. Most facilities are not accepting children under 1. Many are not even accepting children up to the age of 2. And they are forced to take unpaid leave that they can ill afford to do. Often they have to, again, give up their job because they cannot actually get someone to mind their child. So we need to invest in community childcare in particular and provide a lot more places. Also, the recruitment and retention in childcare facilities is an ongoing problem. We have professional childcare workers who are essential in shaping children's futures. And I think childcare needs to be recognised as an essential service. And so the workers need to be paid properly. They are leaving that work. It's not because they want to leave their work, but they have no choice because of the cost of living pressures and so forth. And they're going into other jobs, like an SNA in schools and so forth, because they cannot stay in the job that they want to do. According to the latest OECD report, Ireland ranks among the lowest in government funding for early years. We've only 0.1% of GDP compared to 1.5% in many other countries. A Sinn Féin government would make childcare more affordable, increasing the National Childcare Scheme subsidy. We're aiming for €10 per day, similar to models in many other Scandinavian countries, in parts of Canada also. We propose raising early years educators' pay by €150 initially, with annual increases to retain staff. And we need to plan, we need to speed up the process for childminders to offer subsidies and make use of vacant buildings for childcare. Also, something else that needs to be addressed is the bureaucracy in the paperwork that the childcare providers are expected to do. It's absolutely ridiculous and very demanding of their time, and it's unfair. Thank you.
Deputy Donnelly.
Minister, childcare should be a public service. Adequate childcare should be a help to parents and not a financial burden. It's often said that childcare is akin to having a second mortgage, with the average cost from €800 per month, and that's not far off the mark, and I think a lot of parents in Dublin West are paying far more than that. The current system is a deterrent for both parents or single parents to take up employment or further education. It's a deterrent to having more than one child, and it makes it next to impossible to pay childcare and save for a deposit on a home. It's estimated a lone parent with 2 children needs to earn €40,000 to cover the cost of full-time private care. How many are earning that? Sinn Féin's proposal to deliver €10 a day scheme by bridging the gap between this and the actual cost by subsidising providers, but implementing fee controls to ensure value for money for the state. And I spoke to a parent yesterday and outlined their proposals, and you could see she was completely in shock, to be honest with you, because she thought, how can that be delivered? And I says, it can if you put Sinn Féin in there. The private sector in childcare has been given carte blanche to put up the price of childcare up and up. There should be a consideration given to the price caps as per the ones in place in Norway, Sweden and Finland. All children should have the opportunity to enter childcare to aid with their intellectual development and interpersonal skills. Those working in the sector also need to be provided for, and the Sinn Féin plan would increase the hourly wage of childcare workers by €1.50, with 53.8 million being ring-fenced for wages. In the Sinn Féin childcare plan, we have pledged to invest approximately 100 million to allow parents to take leave for the entire first year of a child's life. And I think, again, that is one of the most important times in a child's life, is to have a parent around them in the first year. And for many people, that's a luxury. And it should not be a luxury. It should be something that's just seen as normal. Allow parents to spend more time with the child during the formative years. This plan is fair on parents, it's fair on children, it's fair on childcare providers, and it's fair on workers. And I think that it's time that this government got out of the way and let Sinn Féin implement a childcare plan that works for people.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Just too many families are paying what in many cases is equivalent of a second mortgage when it comes to childcare. Having to contend with the astronomical price of childcare puts severe stress on families from all socio-economic backgrounds. Regardless of ability to pay, there is the initial stress of sourcing a childcare provider. I'm currently dealing with one family who live in the Dordile area of Limerick. They've had to take 2 weeks leave from their job as they simply cannot find a creche with a space available for their child. They're on a waiting list in several childminding facilities but have had no success in finding a place. They are organised people who have done their best to find a creche. They did not approach this at the last minute, and yet they still cannot find a place for their infant. This is not a unique situation. One childminding facility that I spoke to in Limerick today told me that they have a waiting list of more than 200 children. That's 200 children, Minister. However, we have great childminding facilities in Limerick, and I specifically like to mention Our Lady of Lourdes Childbirth Creche in Ballinacor Weston, the Northside Family Resource Centre in Ballinanty, where I grew up myself, and the Family Tree Creche in the LEDP on the Children's Road. They are all top-class childcare facilities. When it comes to childcare, there are two specific challenges that we legislators must address. We must ensure that childcare is both accessible and affordable, and that's why the Sinn Féin policy of €10 a day is fair, equitable and deliverable. We must ensure that our childcare professionals, people who are vital in shaping and development of many young children, are rewarded fairly for the vital and caring work that they do. The motion in our childcare plan, Better for Children, addresses both requirements. Our plan looks to give children the best start in life and allows parents to remain in work in the safe knowledge that their child is cared for in a safe, secure environment. We have been strong advocates for those working in the childcare sector for many, many years. Our proposals, we believe, will meet the desires of childcare parents, and the key portion of that policy that we're putting forward is €10 per day per child, which is very achievable and fair.
John Carla. I want to commend Deputy Curran and also Kathleen Function for putting this motion together and bringing it to the House. Minister, despite the lack of coherent message in your plan and from the government parties about the structure of childcare going forward, Sinn Féin's policy and its plans are quite clear, costed and designed to address the immediate needs of parents in the sector. The system as it is currently designed isn't what you're after telling us there and does not work effectively for parents, nor many children and early year providers. Sinn Féin has stepped up with a clear plan that offers a real hope of change and affordability. To invest €345 million to deliver €10 per day childcare for parents isn't too much to ask for parents struggling with high cost of childcare and general living. And we want our childcare professionals to remain in the sector here. They must be paid a decent wage and have their efforts to gain advanced qualifications. That's why we provide €53.8 million in funding for the $150 hourly wage increase for workers in the sector, to improve retention and increase capacity to improve viability of services. A contingency fund would also be put in place to cover increases in the future. Regarding capacity, we aim to incorporate self-employed childminders as possible into our scheme, with 2 registered childminders targeted in the first year. This approach would also bring about stability in the sector. We would also bring community buildings into use, which will be of particular benefit for some small early year providers I've spoken to. We are also committing to a full review of core funding with full transparency from providers, so we can establish where the costs have increased, its impact on viability and the changes needed to ensure viability. Other countries cap the price of childcare. It's time we did so instead of expecting parents to pay some of the highest childcare costs in Europe. Sinn Féin will make Ireland a better place to raise their family and build a future. John Carla.
Deputy Cronin.
I have to say I was amused on the first day back of the new term, the words public good in the government amendment. Between the lot of you, you wouldn't know public good from public bad if it jumped up and built you overpriced daylight robbery bike shed or abused Irish airspace to commit genocide in Gaza. but all of a sudden, once Sinn Féin publish our childcare plan, you're out of the private traps on the public road to Damascus. Who are ye kidding? You know full well our plan is an emergency intervention to keep families going now while we build a proper public service in childcare, because parents can't wait any longer. They need our help now. In North Kildare, mothers are desperate to find a childcare place for their baby. Highly qualified women, some of them teachers, and this while we have a teacher shortage. Imagine a shortage in the public good of the education system. Thankfully, the Sinn Féin childcare policy is a game changer in terms of care of our children. A tenner a day. Agus is rodíonnta é an obair rinne teachta Clare Curran as an tábhachta seo. Because unlike you, with your devotion to vultures, cuckoos and appeasing Apple billionaires, Republican politics lives and breathes public good. With us, the current €800 childcare costs would drop to €200 a month. That's a saving of €600. I know €600 mightn't seem like a lot when you can lash out €336,000 on a bike shed, but for parents in North Kildare, that saving would mean that they can have a life that they can afford when a new price comes a washing machine or a child school trip, because life is short. So back in your private box and leave the public good to the politicians that know it and defend it, because Sinn Féin will make social provision a reality and not just a cheap election promise.
Deputy Ellis.
Working parents who are trying to hold down a job and at the same time care for young children find it difficult and stressful to do both. This is particularly acute when there is no family member who can act as a caregiver to the child, or if their job has no flexibility on working hours. These days, few parents can afford to stay at home because of their ever-increasing cost of living, the runaway rents and so on. A single income is just not sufficient to maintain a decent standard of living or for a family to stay financially afloat. The cost of childcare has led to mothers leaving the workforce because of the enormous financial strain on family finances caused by the high cost of childcare, which can often be as high as a mortgage. The government's response to childcare providers was the introduction of a grant scheme for early learning and childcare services. But in my own constituency and around other areas of Dublin, childcare providers have been forced to leave the scheme and pass on the extra costs in doing so to the parents. The reason why childcare providers have had to leave the scheme is because the government has failed to offset inflationary costs in overheads and in employment. Childcare providers in my constituency have also criticised the government for failing to properly invest in the early years sector in comparison to other EU countries. Sinn Féin will reverse this failure to provide proper investment for childcare services. We have looked at existing models of childcare provision in other countries, which have proved to be both successful and affordable. Sinn Féin has a plan to deliver €10 a day childcare. Low-cost childcare services are already being implemented in other countries. Proper childcare services are essential for job security and helping parents enter the workforce. Sinn Féin's childcare plan will give parents peace of mind and will ease the financial burden of childcare costs on them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Deputy Patricia Ryan.
And I'd like to thank Deputy Curran and Deputy Function on bringing this to air today. Minister, Irish parents now pay some of the highest childcare fees in the OECD, some paying the equivalent of a second mortgage, nearly $1,400 per month, with my own constituency of South Kildare ranking among the most expensive counties for creches in Ireland. This is an intolerable strain on parents already struggling with high mortgages, rents and the cost of living increases. Government failures to properly engage with parents and providers means issues with childcare providers, rising costs and affordabilities were left behind. Increased investments and subsidies are a waste when they miss the target, leaving hard-pressed parents paying the price. Sinn Féin have done their homework on this, Minister, and it shows. Affordability at €10 per day per child in creches and childcare. increasing capacity by extending the €10 a day cap to registered childminders, making childcare a viable career choice through increasing hourly wage by €150 initially, with a further pay increase over a 5-year period. It's time we followed European counterparts and Denmark and Sweden and fully recognised the importance of affordable, accessible childcare for parents. Sinn Féin have always been fully committed to a publicly funded childcare model. The time for that is now, and Sinn Féin in government would bring this plan to fruition in 2025, and our children, Minister, deserve nothing less.
Deputy Johnny Mythe.
Firstly, I would like to thank Claire Curran and Kathleen Function for developing our childcare policy. Childcare is an essential linchpin in the creation and sustainability of a good, healthy society. The benefits are enormous to any state or country. The added value is immeasurable and is a solid social investment in our future citizens. Childcare is the fundamental block to building and sustaining cohesion and stable society and a strong economy. This is why Sinn Féin is tabling this motion tonight. The cost of childcare at present for 5 days a week is running at an average of €800 a month, and in some of our larger cities and towns it is well over €1,000, almost equivalent of a second mortgage. We are proposing to increase the subsidy under the National Childcare Scheme to €10 a day per child, reducing the €800 average cost to €200 per month. In tandem, we must pay a decent wage to the early years educators, who are the most valuable people in the entire process, yet they are the lowest paid in their profession. In the interim, we are in favour of a public funded model and bringing early years and school-aged care graduates within public sector pay and conditions in line with teachers. We propose initially for early educators an hourly increase rate of €150, which is badly needed to retain the workers in this area, and followed by a commitment to further increases on an annual basis, subject to negotiations with the sector. We will cap the price on childcare as is good practice in several other European countries. Suddenly, Minister, in your amendment, you have a road to Damascus moment and you are going to introduce it fully next year. Considering Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have been in power for over 14 years now, and during that time, they have managed to reach some of the highest childcare costs in Europe. In my constituency of Wexford alone, working parents and guardians alike are finding it almost impossible to find places for their children. The social enterprise model must be used to use vacant and unused buildings to increase the capacity in local communities, particularly in rural areas. Finally, we would extend the parents' leave and benefit schemes to remain longer with their babies in their first year of their lives. Please support this motion.
Sinn Féin maintains absolutely committed to delivering a public model of childcare, but we can't wait on the perfect. Things have to get better while accepting there have been changes. But parents and children need to make sure we deal with the issues of affordability, of accessibility and of availability. Absolutely vital. Our plan is straightforward. 345 million to deliver €10 per day childcare for parents. That's real affordability. 53.8 million to provide an initial pay increase of €150 per hour to staff, obviously with a commitment to further increases. 106 million to extend maternity and parental benefit so that a parent can be with their child for its first year, and a further contingency fund of over 200 million to cover the cost of further pay increases for staff, increased core funding and expansion of capacity. Look, we've given an absolute commitment to a review of core funding. We know the particular issues that there are in relation to costs, the severity of the viability issue, and we need to get into the nitty-gritty around what is necessary as regards increases to core funding to ensure that providers can continue delivering an essential service. Look, we've all been contacted by people such as this lady in my constituency. I have 2 creches with 37 staff that I support. I am not sleeping at night. I worry that what I'm going to do in the future. The childcare system is not fit for purpose. I cater for near 200 children in both services. I work on average 80 hours a week, including weekends. The provider at all times has been left out. I'm reaching out to you to see if there's anything can be done to support the many stressed out providers. And Minister, I just need to put a question to you that has come to me from a constituent. It relates to a legally registered children's residential centre with full registration, and as through the inspection, all the staff fully Garda vetted, and they say they're not in operation at the minute. I'm going to pass on the details, and hopefully you can answer why that's the particular issue, and we can get it addressed.
Con Corla. First of all, I want to thank Deputy Coran for bringing this motion through. I listened to a lot of the speakers inside here, a bit of nitpicking as well, but actually, last Councillor Caller, you mentioned the word transformative in your contribution, but this is about doing things right. I mean, if we're talking plain English here, this is about giving parents additional time for their child to grow up with them. It's about making affordable childcare. It's about taking the pressure off families. It's also about supporting workers. You know, we know about the wages and so on and so forth. But in Deputy Coran's motion, it's about using everything that's actually available now. Of course, we want to look at a public funded model, but this is something that we can roll out very, very quickly. It can be beneficial very, very quickly, and we've seen it. And I always say, from a tiny little acorn goes a mighty oak tree. So those services that those childcare providers actually provide is one of the best building blocks on the planet. And yet we're not treating them with dignity, we're not treating them with respect. And I would ask the government to even withdraw your counter motion, support this motion, let it be effective, it'll happen very, very quickly. And as I said, it'll support the workers, it'll support their families. The knock-on effect of this will be absolutely and utterly beneficial in all angles. So, look, I'd ask you, please, Minister, to withdraw your motion, the counter motion. As I said, look, things can be amended, but if we work together, we're all trying to do the right thing here. So I'd ask you, please, to support our motion. Mr.
Conclude, Deputy Clerk.
Firstly, I just want to say I was actually disappointed to see a good chunk of the Minister's amendment criticising the plan I launched last week. You don't have to like the plan, of course. I'm not interested in that kind of politicking. I don't do it, and I don't believe that the parents are either. The Minister sees our plan as having no vision. Our plan has a vision and the actual way to get to €10 a day. And if you strip everything out of it, the fact that we're spending 1.1 billion, 1.2 billion of taxpayers' money, and those taxpayers are still paying up to $1,500 a month for childcare, something is very wrong when that's the situation. And for about 106 million, you can take in everyone in a childcare setting now and everyone with a registered childminder now, and you can give their parents €10 a day childcare. That can allow them to go to work. It can improve child development. It can prepare them for school. It is transformative for parents and for children and for the childcare sector, and that can be done. I think it would be the best 106 million you could spend. In relation to the early years educators, and again in your amended motion you say pay is increased. Again, the last pay increase was 65 cents. That is a slap in the face to these professionals, and that is why they are leaving the sector. And if we do not move quickly in relation to pay, ring-fence it and do it ourselves rather than leaving it just solely up to the JLC, more and more are going to leave the sector, and that is going to leave us with less and less capacity. You had, in fairness, a prime opportunity in the last 4 years to look at doing what the Partnership for Public Good did. In their terms of reference, they couldn't look at a public model of funding. You could have done that in the last 4 years, given your party are, and you say are committed to it. That work could have been done to look at the public model. There's been a lot said here tonight in relation to the public model. I don't believe the politicians should design the public model. I am absolutely committed to it. I'm actually uncomfortable with profit being made in this sector, but we can't get to the public model overnight. It has never been looked at in an Irish context, and parents, and particularly the educators in the sector, they cannot wait. They need their better pay, and parents need reduced costs, and that has to be done. And the best way to do that is to look at the model that we are suggesting. I just want, in the last few seconds I want to mention the issue for the flexibility for parents' leave and benefit. And you've said in your amended motion that we're at 46 weeks. But for lone parents and for one-parent families, they're at 35 weeks. And what we're putting forward is the additional 9 weeks that their baby doesn't get. Because if you're born into a one-parent family, and I've raised this with Heather Humphreys, and I hope that you will do likewise, they get the 26 weeks in the case of a mother, and they get 9 weeks. And in a two-parent family, they get the 26, and they get 18 weeks. We are bringing forward to end that discrimination, the extra 9 weeks, which should be there and should never have not been there for that baby, and the additional 8 weeks then to get you to 52. It is nowhere near 46 weeks for one-parent families. That's wrong, and it should be fixed. Lastly, What's there today is not affordable, it's not accessible, and the flexibility for parents isn't there. We have a major issue in relation to waiting lists. There are 33,000 children on waiting lists for childcare places. Our proposals are quick ways in which we can build capacity. It has to be the commitment to the early years educators in the sector if we are to keep them. Otherwise, they're going to keep leaving. We have to give them the commitment that we will continue to increase the pay, and then in some way they might decide to remain on and not go and study something else. We have to give them that certainty. Then looking at the social enterprise model, I can think of 5 community centres in my area that are either vacant all of the time or underused in the day. Let's use those buildings. We don't need to go through 18 months of planning permission. Let's use those buildings. Let's do it in a community, not-for-profit way, which brings us to that public model as well. We have to be innovative in building capacity. We have to build it quickly. And in relation to childminders as well, bringing them in, of course, in a fair way and in a way that suits them and doesn't add too much red tape to what they're already doing. That too will build capacity, but we need to build it and we need to build it quickly, and that's what our motion is about.
Now that concludes the debate on the motion on childcare.